program will begin shortly. Launch sequence. Activate. Warning, the following content is not politically correct. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back to the channel today, everyone. I'm Sarah Higdon. This is Transform to Freedom. So before we kick it off today, I don't know if you guys may or may not be able to tell. My voice is almost gone. Okay, so I've been dealing with some. It's used a humidifier yesterday, which seemed to help clear some of the blockages in my upper respiratory issues. So we're gonna try to go. I was considering canceling the show, so we're gonna try to make it today. I think we'll be fine. I've been feeling quite well. Last week I was gone, obviously. We had a Christmas party in DC, so that was fun. If you saw some of the pictures, it was the Free the People Christmas party. And yeah, we had a great time. Lots of cool people hanging out. Had a bar. And yeah, it's always good to go and see my team, see the team over for the people that I work with there. We don't get to see each other enough. That's always the feeling when we leave. So oh, thank you, Sierra. And also Cassie, thank you for this is your first time catching me live. So thank you for joining. So we're gonna kind of get into it. And also to note, I posted this on X last week, and if you notice, I'm now calling it X because I'm a person of my word, right? So I said that when X gives me subscriptions, I will stop calling it Twitter and I will use the proper terminology. Well, last week, X gave me my subscriptions. My subscriptions on the platform are live. Right now, I don't know how I'm going to use that. Hopefully in the future, we'll be doing some, subscriber only spaces, maybe do some Ask Me Anythings. I got to figure out what type of content to bring to just my subscribers. But anyways, if you go and subscribe to me over there, it just really helps out. And I truly appreciate that. Also, if you're not already following me on X, do that. That's where I spend most of my time. That's usually where you can find me, other than here once a week or, every couple days. But this is the only live stream I do right now is here once a week. So go follow me on X and subscribe to me over there if you do so choose. Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, so my skincare regimen is I have a lot of mixing stuff. So I will give a shout out to my good friend, my friend Adrian Curry, who sells Avon, which she turned me on to some of the stuff there. She sent me some samples, and so I've been using some of the serums over there. And so go check out her stuff because she can hook you up. So let's get into, y'all know, like when we start the show, we tend to go back, talk about stuff that we've already talked about in past weeks. So first thing, congratulations to Richard Grinnell, who works heavily with the Log Cabin Republicans. He was, if you don't know, he was actually the first gay man who actually was serving in a presidential administration. I had talked about him before. I thought he should have been the Secretary of State. He had the experience to do so. But it's really nice to see that he has actually been appointed to serve as the presidential envoy for special missions, and that deals with a lot of different complex stuff throughout the world, including dealing with like it's doing diplomatic stuff around the world, hot, the hottest spots around the world. And so Trump said, in my first term, Rick was the United States ambassador to Germany, and then the acting director of national intelligence, which is Tulsi Gabbard, who Tulsi Gabbard was positioned for that, but for this time. And previous, he spent 8 years inside the United Nations Security Council, working for North Korea and developments in numerous countries. Rick, blah blah blah. I just know that he's going to do a great job in this position. Like I said, I've met Rick before. We've spoken before. He's given me some quotes for articles. He's always been great, and like I said, he's got he works heavily with the Log Cabin Republicans and Outspoken USA, which, if you know, I've done content for Outspoken, so there's that. And I'm really happy to see just some good people in the administration. It just keeps getting better. Another person who we talked about before, actually, let's go to this one. Let me see. Another great person to have in the administration, Donald Trump appointed Paul Atkins as the SEC chair, so the Security and Exchanges Commission chair. This is big because Matt Kibbe on Kibbe on Liberty, the podcast that we host at Free the People, and Matt Kibbe is our president over there. He hosted Paul on Kibbe on Liberty last year. So you can go and watch and see just exactly who he is and understand him, and how he feels about the SEC and all this stuff. But he's a crypto guy, and that's why Bitcoin Magazine was hyping him up, because he's a crypto guy. And I think this is a big deal, because having somebody in there that understands the crypto markets and understands how crypto can be an asset rather than something to shy away from for the government. So Trump has vowed to create crypto exchange or crypto reserves for the U.S., which will actually help to boost, like if you're invested into crypto right now, it will help boost your stuff. So when Paul Atkins was, when this came out a couple weeks ago, when this came out, Bitcoin went over 100,000 for the first time ever. And it actually hit 107,000 today, last I saw. So I've been watching it a little bit, hit an all-time high today. And so it's just going to continue. I think, Bitcoin's going to continue to go up and up as we have an administration that fully understands the full weight and benefits that crypto can bring. Because this is the thing. So liberal and Democrat politicians and, the progressives all around the world, they want fiat currency. They want a central bank digital currency, which is a government controlled fiat. Now, that is the worst thing we could ever have, is a government controlled crypto exchange. Why? Because government is, so basically what a government controlled digital currency would do is it creates, they're basically coupons, right? And so it would actually usher in a social credit system. So it would be like going to the grocery store and your social credit score is too low. They could literally say, no, you can't buy this. Or they could usher in a Green New Deal to say you are only allowed to buy so much meat per week or so much meat per month. And if you've met that demand, then they will cut you off. They will stop you from being able to use the crypto, use the money that you've earned. And so that's why central bank digital currencies are bad. But crypto, as like Bitcoin and non-centralized crypto like Bitcoin and Ethereum and others, are so good because they're not beholden to government. Nobody controls them, right? So it's like you buy them, it's like you're buying gold. It's like you actually have a physical product, even though it's digital. And so that's why it's so beneficial. and you can take it anywhere. And you have your keys. You can actually, most people don't even know this. Like you can take, there's crypto thumb drives where you can actually take your crypto and put it onto your thumb drive, take it offline, and then when you plug back into a computer, you can download your crypto, or you can transfer it to a different wallet over there. Crypto is it's a really cool thing that most people I don't even think understand the basics, even though it's been around for quite a while. So this is, like I said, this is a big thing, because here's one of the issues that we always have. It's like, is it a security or is it not? They don't want to tell us what crypto actually is. And when I had a conversation, or I reported on a conversation a few months ago, and you can actually see the video. I have it pulled up, but you can see the video over at Post Millennial. You have Vivek Ramaswamy talking about, is it a security or is it not? If it's a security, then we have to figure out how to, how does the taxes and stuff work on it? The government is so behind on crypto, they punish people. People became Bitcoin millionaires very quickly, and so they'll punish people because they don't even have a good definition for it. They don't understand it well enough, and so people get punished in terms of like their taxes when you sell. When you sell a stock, it's pretty easy. You pay capital gains on that. But is crypto going to be is crypto tax the same as stock, or is it an asset? So is it a security or is it an asset? And even all of this is probably more complicated than what I'm making. It's probably more complicated than even I understand. So there's a lot that has to be done, and I think Paul Atkins is a great person to be in that position. Now, we talked about it last time we were on the show, and this happened the day after we talked about it. We talked about the person that Donald Trump, this guy who Donald Trump had selected to serve as the Drug Enforcement Agency, the Drug Enforcement administrator of the Drug Enforcement Administration. How bad he was during COVID, right? So how he locked down churches during COVID, how he violated the First Amendment during lockdowns by not allowing people to gather for church. It was a complete violation of the First Amendment to prevent that, and he didn't. But good news is he stepped down. So stepping down, that's it's good to see, because we definitely did not need somebody like this in any job, unless his duty was going to be to go in and shut down the Drug Enforcement Agency. There's no reason for somebody with his background to be in there. So that was good news. Lastly, going into stuff we've talked about on this show plenty of times before. As you know, I actually did a full video about Haley Davidson, who was a transgender golfer who was competing in who was looking like Haley was looking as if it was probable that they would be on making it to the LPGA after only a couple years of competing in women's golf. Again, not fair. I think in the video that I did about this, Haley hadn't lost any distance on hadn't lost any driving distance, hadn't lost any performance, and even acknowledged that males have an advantage in female sports, yet still competed. And so finally, the LPGA did the right thing, and they have completely banned trans players from women's competitions, or males from women's competitions, which is a good thing. Like, obviously, if you've watched my show for long enough, I'm against males competing in female sports of all situations. They did say the LPGA made the caveat that going through male puberty is what causes these advantages and everything like that. Now that's where I would have been years ago too, but right. So then you get into, and it makes sense that the LPGA would make that distinction, because they're not going to get into the legalities of whether minors should be able to take, like, they're not going to get into the political position of whether minors should be allowed to transition or not. They're just going to make the rules for their sport. So I understand that. Now we would disagree that, you wouldn't even have to have that distinction if we're talking like males, or anybody. Minors shouldn't be taking cross-sex hormones. They shouldn't be taking puberty blockers. We shouldn't be doing that stuff. But the LPGA is not gonna take that stance. Hello, thank you for catching us live. Yes. Let's see. Okay, moving on. Okay. If you saw my YouTube earlier, I had a different title on this. So I don't know how much we're actually going to get into this school shooting. So if you haven't heard, there was another school shooting in Wisconsin. Was it the Madison, Wisconsin area? A lot of stuff going back and forth. Now, if you've watched this show for enough, I do have a rule that I am generally not going to discuss. I'm not going to make people famous. I'm not going to I'm not going to say their name on this channel. However, this situation is a little bit different. Everybody initially started because the police made it a little bit ambiguous. They were not reporting even the gender or sex of the shooter. So it made people start to again question: is this another Covington school shooting, or the school shooting, the Nashville school shooter? I think that was Covington Elementary in Nashville. I think so. Was this another situation like that? What was it? There's still a lot of misinformation. There's still a lot of speculation going around online. What we do know, it seems like, so we do know that this person was a female. And from everything that's been posted now, she was not trans. So that's been a big thing. Not a trans person. Seems to be confirmed a social outcast, loner type who was fascinated by other school shooters, specifically the 1999 Columbine shooters, which were really in a lot of ways the first of the modern school shootings. But even the t-shirt she's wearing in this picture is the same t-shirt, that same band, same thing that the shooters from the Columbine shooting idolized, they wore, everything like that. She used a handgun, which is going to be interesting to see what comes out of there. But she used a handgun in a gun-free zone. So a minor obtained a handgun and used it in a gun-free zone. Like, when people start to come out and say, push the anti-gun narrative about all this, there's no law that anybody has ever proposed that would have stopped this from happening. The best thing to do, as we've spoken about previously on other instances like this, is you have to lock down schools. You have to have resource officers, and you have to have resource officers that have firearms, and you also have to allow teachers to carry if they want, if they feel comfortable, if they are trained, if they want to carry firearms. That is the only way, and concealed firearms. That is the only way that these types of things can be prevented. Now, I don't know exactly how many people were killed in this. I think it was 2. and several more injured. But here's some of the stuff that's been going on. So this is, again, not confirmed. There was a post from a Discord channel where she had expressed radical feminist ideologies, where it says every male must be wiped out. But also I've seen, so this is that you can read it, but the thing about it is, so then we go down to I forget what her name is, what her actual name is, but so she works for Redux magazine, and so she said she made contact with the alleged boyfriend of the shooter, who does not live in the United States, and he provided her with the entire manifesto, which apparently this feminist take is not in the actual manifesto. So this is where some of the stuff gets confusing. So at this point, we're gonna kind of wait out and see what actually is in there, and wait before we actually go down that rabbit hole, because I don't know if that's true. I'm not going to comment on something if we don't know if it's true. It's all very new. Like I said, this kind of started happening as I had already even set the show up. So the person went by a different female name. So they have like their their given name that their parents gave them was a different name that they actually went by and was on the school identification. Both were female names. Yes, the boyfriend said she was born female and not transgender. Her boyfriend was male and not transgender either. The manifesto was 6 pages long. She spoke about having extremely difficult relationships with her parents, who she referred to as scum. She also claimed her family didn't love her or want her, and expressed feelings like the wrong child of her family. She says that she had planned to commit suicide a long time ago, but felt committing a shooting was better for evolution rather than just one stupid, boring suicide. She offered praise for other mass shooters. In it, she said she expressed that she had gotten the weapons to commit the attack through lies, manipulation, and my father's stupidity. And so this is what's going to be really interesting, right? So we had, you remember there was a shooting, a shooting in Oxford, Michigan, where both parents ended up being charged, right? So, and I believe that they were both found guilty earlier this year for not doing more when they, not doing more to when they knew that their son was high risk, especially with firearms and stuff like that. They didn't do enough to safeguard their firearms when they knew that their son had been targeted by the police and the school for having threatened to shoot up the school previously. And even that morning, the parents were called to the school because there was an incident where the person said that they were going to shoot people. And so when you and so with all of that information, remember, both those parents were charged, and I believe that they were found guilty for kind of, I guess, aiding and abetting. There was a shooting here in Georgia this past summer, and not far from my house. And they had, I think the dad was charged there because they gave their son an AR-15 for his birthday, which ended up then going to be used in a school shooting, as well. So if this girl's father gave her the firearm, then I believe that he will probably be charged. Now, there was an issue with the Oxford school shooting. Now, if I remember correctly, I had kind of an issue with charging those parents because it wasn't their negligence that led to it. It was simply that it was basically just charging the parents for the crimes of the child, which it kind of sets a dangerous precedent in a lot of ways. Now in Georgia, though, I fully agree with charging those parents because they were completely negligent and should have never bought that child a firearm when they knew that child was disturbed. Same with this situation. We'll see what ends up coming out. We'll see how so there's also so she was born in 2009. How old did that make her? 15? So if she was 15, my math, just double check my math. But if she was 15 and you have to be 21 to buy a handgun, and her dad just kind of gave her a handgun and she was responsible for it, then yeah, that's probably negligence. At the very least, manslaughter on his part. But apparently, I mean, she came up with apparently rough upbringing, kind of a loner, social outcast, obsessed with death and murder and school shootings. We'll see what more comes out of this, but it'll be interesting to kind of watch. These things, you watch the narratives play out, because if it is like, if it's a feminist, see, this is where what's going to be hard is now you're going to have the left doing their thing where they are going to say it is the guns. I've already seen it before I came on the show. It is the guns, blah blah blah, blame the guns. But if it turns out this person, like, she's a victim of, well, one, there's no, like I said, there's no gun restrictions that would have stopped this. We'll see. If she was a feminist, that would mean that she was she was like on the left side ideologically, and they wouldn't have they wouldn't be able to. We'll see how fast it goes away, right? At the same time, yeah, I'm not sure. We'll see where this goes. But a lot more to come out from here. Like we never want to jump too far into conclusions about these kinds of things. All right. Actually, I don't need. Yeah, don't need that one. All right, moving on. So if you haven't been paying attention, there have been drone sightings over New Jersey this week. What are they, we ask? We don't know. Are they just people of New Jersey just messing around? Are they like a hobby club that's kind of messing around with the people in the news and everything like that? I don't know. So Mishka, I live in New Jersey. I saw one the other day near my house. Yeah, I've seen other people that I know posting stuff. Why New Jersey? I mean, somebody said this to me the other day, and I don't want to take credit as if it's mine, but they were right. They said this is how you know it's not aliens, because why would aliens come to see New Jersey? But it doesn't make sense, right? So what makes it worse is that our government is not being transparent as to what's going on. So a part of me really starts to think that this is our government doing some shady stuff, or not. Now there is the video, or there is the claim, and I saw this, and it starts to make sense. And I've been like, okay, is this what's really going on? Because there was a claim that alien life was supposed to come 30 days after, based on a report from like 2009, a computer model from 2009. There was aliens were supposed to come to the US 30 days after Trump went on Joe Rogan. And this is, again, a prediction from 2009, and then Trump goes on Rogan. So 30 days aliens were supposed to come, and it was going to lead to, like, air battles and stuff like that with our fighter jets and everything like that. And then we see but it didn't happen 30 days out, but then these things started popping up, and it was like they would come here 30 days out. It didn't necessarily mean that they would make their presence known at that time. So then these things start popping up. So it makes you wonder, are these aliens? I'm doubtful. I fully assume that, yes, it's our government doing something, and they're not even telling the local police about it. Like, I'm guessing that there's some military exercise happening that they don't want to let people know. Like, but because people do like to get up in arms about military exercises that they don't know what's going on. Like, I remember in Texas when the people of Texas thought that the 82nd Airborne Division was invading them because they were doing a military operation, an airborne operation into the field. I think it was in the deserts in Texas, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, there's paratroopers coming in." But it ended up just being a normal training exercise. But generally, the government's pretty transparent about this stuff. So, Mayorkas has confirmed that there's no known foreign involvement in the sightings. But if you know that there's no known foreign involvements in these sightings, then what are they? What are you not telling us? So this is what he said on This Week on ABC.
Are there any legitimate national security concerns here? For example, have you seen any evidence at all, especially in these recent sightings in the Northeast, of any kind of foreign involvement?
We have not seen any foreign, we know of no foreign involvement with respect to the sightings in the Northeast, and we are vigilant in investigating this matter, the Department of Homeland Security, with the Federal Bureau of Investigation in the lead.
But there have been concerns in the past. In fact, a Chinese national was arrested in California this week, allegedly for flying a drone over Vandenberg Air Force Base. Last year, you had drone flights over Langley Air Force Base in Virginia, over a nuclear facility in Nevada. So what is the national security concern right now?
Well, when a drone is flown over restricted airspace, we act very, very swiftly. And in fact, when an individual in California flew a drone over restricted airspace, that individual was identified, apprehended, and is being charged by federal authorities. And so we act as swiftly as possible when an individual does fly a drone over restricted airspace and violates the rules. You know, there are, George, more than 1 million drones registered in the United States.
That's an awful lot. But bottom line, you're saying Americans have nothing to worry about?
Look, it is our job to be vigilant in the federal government with our state and local partners on behalf of the American public, and we can assure their safety by reason of that vigilance. We've deployed personnel, technology, and if there is any reason for concern, if we identify any foreign involvement or criminal activity, we will communicate with the American public accordingly. Right now, we are not aware of any. If we become aware of any, we will communicate accordingly and take appropriate action.
But again, so what are they not telling us? Like, if they're flying, like Mishka is saying, they're flying, they're loud and they're big, and so obviously they're flying low. They're disrupting. Like your average, your average drone is not. It's not large, right? Drones are about this big, if not smaller. So drones in general are not going. They don't like make a lot of noise. They move slow. Like they're not these things. So you say it's like the size of a car. Those are not like civilian drones. So again, what are we not being told? Why is the federal government stoking basically conspiracy theories by not being transparent? Like what's going on? We need to know, because they're causing all these issues, and the more that they aren't transparent, the more that people are just questioning, like it's causing more conspiracy theories with them just not being transparent. Yeah, it's crazy. Like these are not regular civilian drones. So what are they? Like, I don't know what else to say about that. We can't. I don't know what they are, but if they're not foreign involvement and they're not civilian drones, then they're our drones. And if they're our drones, our government drones, one, what are they doing flying over the US? What are they doing? But also, like, our government drones, like, this is like, people don't know, like, our government drones they fly so high, you would never even know that they were there in the first place. Like, ever. Like, I remember when we were in Afghanistan, we would have drones just sit there and watch people like all day. And they would never know that they were there because it's like there's different levels. And so like your fighter jets fly at this level and your drones fly at this level, and they watch like everything, and they can precision target with rockets from very high levels. And so, yeah, I don't know what to believe on this one. I don't know what to believe. Are they aliens? They could be. I wouldn't doubt it at this point. But and this is the thing, is so when the government starts telling us that there's aliens, then I don't believe that they're aliens, because I just don't believe our government tell us the truth. But now they're not telling us anything, so now I'm starting to think that they may be aliens. Because remember, as you guys were saying earlier in the chat, that when Biden took office, there was a lot of chatter from the administration that they think that aliens might have landed. That made me think that no, the aliens hadn't really landed, but now that they're not saying anything about it, maybe they are aliens. Maybe the prophecy that we talked about with the Joe Rogan and Donald Trump, like the 30 days after that, maybe that prophecy has come true. And the question, though, really is, why is our government not shooting them down? Right? Like, why are we not shooting them down? It was like the Chinese spy balloon, right? First, they told us it wasn't an adversary, a balloon, but then it ended up being a Chinese spy balloon. But then it's like, why did we not shoot it down before it got over our country? Why do we let it cross the entire country before we shot it down? These are the things that don't make sense. We need answers. Which again, thankfully, these people like Mayorkas are out here in about 30 days. Yeah. January 20th. They're gone. They're gone. But yeah. Okay, so also kind of going back, if you didn't know, there's a big Supreme Court case that was that's going on. And it happened 2 weeks ago, last week. They heard oral arguments for the Tennessee ban on gender treatments for minors in Tennessee. So during the oral argument, so the law in Tennessee again is just like in most other states where they are banning. So this court case could have ramifications throughout all of these all of the laws that have been passed to protect children from irreversible harm. And so we'll see what happens with this. I actually think the court is getting ready to, I think they're going to rule. I actually think they're going to rule in favor of Tennessee. So if you know my concerns with some of these bills, the bills, I believe, could depend on the state, could have a 14th Amendment violation within them, because if you allow males or if you allow females to get breast augmentation but don't allow males to get breast augmentation, that would be a violation of the 14th Amendment, right? So if a 16-year-old female can get breast augmentation, then a male, according to the law, doesn't matter if they're trans or not, should be allowed to get breast augmentation. That's according to the Equal Protection Clause under the 14th Amendment. However, the ACLU is arguing a different type of, it's still a 14th Amendment violation. They're still arguing an equal protection 14th Amendment case, but they're not doing it specifically on that. They're talking about, they're targeting, quote, gender affirming care, as if females are taking estrogen supplements. Female minors are actually being placed on estrogen supplements, and males are being placed on testosterone supplements, as if that. So if a male can take testosterone at that age because it's appropriate for males to take testosterone at that age, then for a female, it would be an equal protection violation. I don't think that holds up under the law. And so in Tennessee, even the surgery thing that I said before, I believe it is against the law in Tennessee for, young minor females to get breast implants. So at that time, the law in Tennessee actually holds up, and there is no confliction even among that. So I think that the court's going to rule it. But what was really stunning about all of this was during oral arguments, who was it? Justice Samuel Alito got Chase Stringlio, who is the attorney for the ACLU, who is also a trans man. Alito used the Cass report and started talking about saying that showing how the Cass report showed that there was showing that there was evidence that sex changes to treat gender dysphoria does not reduce incidents of suicide, which is again what they are trying to base these laws, like what they're trying to fight these laws on, is that if you take away this treatment for minors, then you're going to have an increase in suicidality. And so under the Cass report, they said no. And when asked about it, let me see, I actually have the clip.
True in every respect. But on page 195 of the Cass report, it says, there is no evidence that gender affirmative treatments reduce suicide.
What I think that is referring to is there is no evidence in the studies that this treatment reduces completed suicide. And the reason for that is completed suicide, thankfully and admittedly, is rare, and we're talking about a very small population of individuals with studies that don't necessarily have completed suicides within them. However, there are multiple studies, long-term longitudinal studies that do show that there is a reduction in suicidality, which I think is a positive outcome to this treatment.
Let me ask a question about another issue that came up during Justice Kagan's questioning and Justice Barrett's question.
So he was making a situational argument, right? So he admits that there is no basis, there's no studies that show that gender affirming treatment for minors reduces the number of suicides. Think about that. This has been their entire stance forever. You know, this is what they use to manipulate parents that don't want to go along with their children. Like, this is what they use to manipulate parents across the country. That if you don't transition your child, or you don't affirm them, if you don't, if you don't put them on blockers and put them on cross-sex hormones or have the surgeries, it's either you're choosing between either having a trans child or having a dead child, which we know that is false. We know it's completely false. And now Chase admits it. He's trying to make the claim that suicidality or suicidal ideations is reduced, but there's no claim on, there's no evidence of this, because again, as we talk about this stuff, it's all based on individual surveys. There is no actual proof that shows that is the case. Surveys, and Chase is one that likes to use the survey that shows all this stuff's beneficial, because again, but they don't have any hard or fast data that these things actually improve mental health in minors. So, and instead of collecting the data, they're going to use these surveys, and so surveys don't follow the scientific method, right? Even if because they don't take into account the sunk cost fallacy. Sunk cost fallacy meaning, even if you are in the midst of your worst mistake ever and you acknowledge that it's a mistake, you're not going to acknowledge that it's a mistake to those around you. And so this is one of those situations where he doesn't actually have a response to it. And so again, it is really starting to look like this case is gonna end up with affirming that states can restrict gender treatments for minors, which is a good thing. If it was for adults, I would be saying a completely different thing, but minors cannot consent to life-altering elective procedures like this. They just can't. And especially when it comes down to these things, they sterilize children. They put them in irreversible harm. Even if they end up going on to be transition as an adult, they still undergo irreversible harm. So the states absolutely should be stopping that. Now, again, I'll always go back and say, the lawsuits like Chloe Cole's lawsuits and multiple others. We talked about another lawsuit before from Clementine, who's now suing. These lawsuits are what actually will de-incentivize doctors from prescribing these treatments. And that's what's going to end it. It de-incentivizes the doctors from prescribing it, de-incentivizes malpractice insurance companies from providing coverage for these procedures. In the end, you have to hit them where they're in their pocketbook. The law can only do so much. And I'm going to tell you right now, there's been a lot of chatter online how on January 20th, Donald Trump is going to snuff all this out and it's going to be game over. But people don't. I don't think a lot of people on the right understand that Donald Trump is not like a king. He's not all powerful, and he's not going to be able to just like sign with his pen, just like swipe it all away, right? There's not much you can actually do from a federal level to affect all this stuff. He has the ability to stop the Biden Title IX restrictions from going into place, and they have the ability to control the spaces of federally funded buildings. And that's about it. There's not a whole lot other than the changing of culture that he brings with him as the president. But still, most of this stuff goes down to the state level. So while I'm interested to see how Trump comes in and what he's able to do, he's not all powerful. He's not a king. And in fact, most of this stuff, even if you wanted to pass a bill, has to get through the Senate, and you need 60 votes in the Senate to get most of this stuff through. Any law through, you need 60 votes in the Senate. So, and the Republicans don't hold a 60 seat majority. So it's going to be we'll see what happens. I think a lot of people are over optimistic as to what President Trump is going to actually be able to control when he gets into office. But we'll see. Next story. So if you guys didn't see, when did this happen? See, this is when I take a week off, it's hard because I don't remember, because it's like last week and then the week before. There's a lot of stuff that's happened in between then. So there was the United Healthcare CEO was assassinated in downtown, and basically in Times Square, New York. There was the manhunt, and even before they caught this guy, the left was like thirsty over this guy. It was kind of insane, right? So, and ironic, because like now they're jumping on and talking about how we should ban guns, but yet they were basically justifying and celebrating this guy shooting the United Healthcare CEO, and then he gets caught. And so, if you guys haven't seen, this is the person that did it. A lot of talk has been about healthcare companies in general. One second. Sorry, dog barking. So it was really, so there was the big thing because of who he assassinated, right? They were basically praising it because they're like, insurance companies are so high, insurance premiums are so high, insurance companies are evil things. That's what they're all saying, right? I'm going to tell you right now, murder is never justified, ever. The moment that our society starts to praise or justify shootings is the moment we really start to see an end to a civilized society. It really is giving off French Revolution, eat the rich type vibes, which I guess is very indicative of the left. But this is not where we want to go, and it's not even just leftists. I'm going to tell you this: it's not even leftists. I've seen libertarians giving the same attitude, which they're the left libertarians. So that tells you a little bit more about their leanings, where they came from, the woke left, the communist left. That, oh, big business bad, corporation bad, killing CEOs is justified in their opinion because of they turn down payments and all this stuff. Like, look, our healthcare system is far from perfect. What people don't understand, our healthcare system was made incredibly worse when Obamacare was passed. at the time we were warning people that with the passage of Obamacare, it would make insurance premiums rise. And it was meant to do that as a means to usher in a single payer healthcare system similar to what they have in Canada. And I'm just going to say that there was if you want to see what happens in a Canadian healthcare system, we had a person who I had seen his name popping up in my feed every so often. I hadn't followed him yet, but it was getting to that point where I actually had seen his stuff quite a bit. But he was Canadian, and he went to the hospital, waited there for hours, said he had a health scare. When they determined that he wasn't dying, they put him into the waiting room for 3 hours or 6 hours, and then at that point he just decided to go home. Unfortunately, he ended up passing away. And so, again, if he had been in the US and had our emergency healthcare system, probably wouldn't have happened. But that is the Canadian healthcare system. That is what happens under single payer. You don't have the volume or quality of care that you have under the system that we have. Unfortunately, our system is broken because they broke it. It was broken before Obamacare, but then it was made even worse since Obamacare. Obamacare raised premiums and caused a lot of these issues for the health industry. And we'll look a little bit further into this. So first off, let's listen to what AOC has to say on the matter.
Taken from a diagnosis. And I think that this collective American experience, which is so twisted to have in the wealthiest nation in the world, all of that pain that people have experienced is being concentrated on this event. And it's really important that we take a step back. This is not to comment, and this is not to say that an act of violence is justified. But I think for anyone who is confused or shocked or appalled, they need to understand that people interpret and feel and experience denied claims as an act of violence against them. People go homeless over the financial devastation of a diagnosis that doesn't get addressed, or the amount that they're going to have to cover with a surprise bill and things like that. And when we kind of talk about how systems are violent in this country, in this passive way, our privatized.
This is literally she says this isn't to justify violence, but she is justifying it. She's doing exactly what she said she wasn't going to do. And it's the old cliche, right? When you say something but then say but right after it, usually anything before the but is disregarded, because she's trying to again say that our healthcare system is criminal. Now, I've done videos on here about how we should be allowed to buy into health savings accounts without having a plan. But again, the Affordable Care Act is what caused this issue. You have to have a low deductible plan to be able to buy into a health savings account. Well, if you're somebody like me who works as a contractor, works for myself, then so if you're somebody like me, like I said, yeah, if you work for yourself, I can't buy into a collective health insurance company. So because I don't need like a full plan, I just need a health savings account where I can invest into my own money. I can invest pre-taxed into a savings account that you can actually invest into mutual funds and grow from there. And it grows tax-free, I would rather do that than even have anybody come in and say that they can deny a claim of mine. Our system is, I mean, people that don't understand how healthcare works are the ones that are justifying this. And if you allow something like this to happen, and then you go out there and you say, well, this is, you know, we're gonna actually take a look at the grievances that this person had. That is terrorism. That person has now terrorized you into doing exactly what they want. That is letting terrorists win. So this isn't the time to be talking about this. You can't, it is justifying the actions. Bureaucrats aren't denying. So Cat on X says, yeah, it makes no sense to let bureaucrats deny a doctor's order. But that's the thing, is bureaucrats aren't denying doctors' orders here in the US. You actually get bureaucrats denying doctors' orders in other countries where they have a single payer healthcare system, right? So if you have a single payer healthcare system, like again, Canada, and the government doesn't want to fund a procedure because it's too expensive, they won't. Or because because you're too old and they don't think that it will be beneficial for you to receive that procedure, they won't pay for it. And what you're seeing in countries like Canada and other countries around the world, that's why you're seeing like MAIDS programs popping up, because they don't want to pay for these procedures. So if you have an issue, they say, oh, you want this done? Well, have you thought about going to our MAIDS program where they will help you commit suicide? That's what's happening in those countries. Yeah, see, we were on the same page. Thanks. Yeah, as you were typing it as I said it. Yeah, now they have MAIDS. That's exactly what happens in those countries. Remember when there was this whole thing. The leftists used to make fun of conservatives for talking about like death panels and stuff, and then we ended up start seeing death panels starting to come up and pop up around the world. The bureaucrats will actually determine what people are paying for and what they aren't paying for, what they will and will not pay for. One of the interesting things here is this clip is actually pretty good. Whoopi Goldberg describes it actually perfectly. Watch.
There are things we can fool with and things we can't. Healthcare is one of those things that you shouldn't be able to fool with. And insurance companies who you pay, I pay into my insurance, you pay into your insurance. I don't understand. If I don't go to the hospital for a whole year, where's my money? Why don't you give me the money back? Then you don't have to worry about it. Because I feel like, I said this, okay.
We got Bill coming on.
I know we got Bill coming. But
Okay, so Tim Young is right. Whoopi has no idea how health insurance works. So let me explain it to you, Whoopi. If you would even pay attention to the show, let me explain it to you. Health insurance in and of itself, any insurance, is a big pool of money. Everybody puts their money into that pool of money, into that pot. So it makes everybody's premiums lower. So they are actually banking on a large portion of that pot to be healthy people that aren't going to use their insurance. Because then other people have to use that insurance to pay for their bills. So say there's 10 of us and we all pay $1,000 in, and 9 of us are healthy, and we all pay $1,000 in. So that's what, 100,000. Wait, 10 of us, we all pay $1,000 in. That's $10,000. Say we're all 9 of us are healthy, but one of us gets a $9,000 bill. So all of us basically pay that $9,000 bill. That's how insurance works. It's a big pool of money. And what you're banking on is that when you get older and as you become, or if you get sick, then the other people will be able to cover down, or they'll get more people in that will help pay for you. I mean, that's why there's a lot. That's why, like, businesses, when it works through your employer, because the business is able to create an entire collective of everybody in your company, along with other people from other companies. It's a big mass pool of money where it's mostly healthy people that are paying into it. And that's how it works. That's why you don't get your money back. It literally works just like the United States tax system. We all pay into a system, and then we pay welfare to the lowest common denominator, right? Like, that's how the US taxpayer system comes. We don't get our money back at the end of the year if we don't use it. That's not how it works. They are using it. And so it's kind of the same deal. It's how all health insurance works. What she is describing. Now, there are health insurance companies that you can buy into. I've seen some where they are like co-ops, right? So it can be like a Christian co-op. So if you're a member of us, like churches, your church could literally have a big pool of money to pay out, like a GoFundMe account for everybody who it's basically a GoFundMe account for everybody who is in that church, and they just kind of stack the money, and when somebody gets sick and needs to pull from it, they pull from it. What Whoopi is describing is essentially an health savings account, which is exactly what I want, right? And I bet you, see, this is the thing, I bet you Whoopi doesn't even have health insurance because she's rich. So she just pays for it out of pocket, because it would actually make no sense for her to actually have health insurance, because she has the money to pay cash for it. There's no reason to take money out of like her check every week to pay for healthcare when she can just pay for it out of pocket. It's cheaper if you pay for it out of pocket like that. This is what they also don't tell you, is the way that the health coding system works is they will charge my insurance. So say I go to the doctors, and if I was to be paying cash out of pocket and I was only going to pay like $100, they would end up charging my insurance company $1,000 if that was the case. And so then my insurance company may charge me $120 copay. So this is the thing, is a lot of times it's actually cheaper if you just pay cash out of pocket to the doctor rather than paying through your insurance. But the moment that you tell them that you actually have insurance, they're going to go through your insurance and you're going to have to pay more. They don't tell you, like, there's a lot of this really fucked up stuff when it comes to insurance. Yes. But like, if you're paying out of pocket, a lot of times it's really crazy. It's cheaper. So what Whoopi is actually describing would be a good system if she actually learned how health savings accounts actually work. Health savings accounts. So if you don't know about health savings accounts, so generally and this is where I wish we could just have a health savings account without the requirement of a low deduct or a high deductible plan. So in a health savings account, you have to have insurance, but you have to have a high deductible plan. So your deductible would be like $5,000 for the year, right? Well, if you pay, but then what's good about the health savings accounts are actually better than 401ks, because what happens, your employer takes your contribution out before taxes. So before they pay your taxes, they take your contribution out, and then your money grows tax-free, like a Roth IRA. You can actually put it into mutual funds to grow like a Roth IRA. And as long as you remain healthy and you don't pull from it, generally what it's there for is when you retire at 65, you start pulling out. Like, if you have health issues, you can actually start pulling out for health reasons. When you're older, you're going to need more health, like more procedures and stuff like that. So you have the money in your HSA to pay for it. It's very simple. I mean, so you're not pulling out of your retirement funds, you're pulling out of your health savings account. But at the same time, you can use from your health savings account at any time. It will continue to grow tax-free, and you can use it tax-free at any time, as long as you're using it on medical procedures. So again, like, why wouldn't we be wanting everybody on a health savings account? If like you're a young this is the thing. If you're a young, then this is why they do it. So if you're a young, healthy person, you don't really, I'm not giving health advice, but necessarily, you don't necessarily need health insurance because you're young and healthy. I mean, you have insurance in case something happens, like say you get into an accident or something like that. That's why you have insurance. But if you're young and healthy, you generally can take the risk, but they don't. But see, the health insurance companies are banking on those young and healthy people to pay the insurance to pay off the older people, or the people that actually have other conditions. They're actually banking on those people, the young and healthy people, to pay for the other people's procedures. So that's what Whoopi's not understanding here, and that's how health insurance actually works. Yeah, you're right. Kat says gives the responsibility to the individual. I think as somebody who's very individual, I would rather be paying for my own health insurance very much. I am young, I'm healthy, and I would rather just have paying into it myself. Now, if you want to join the collective, collectives in general are a communist idea, right? But if you want to join the collective, go join the collective, and that's fine. You can do that. You can opt in to do that. This is why actually in Obamacare, they tried to make it a mandate that they would actually penalize you via taxes if you didn't have insurance, because they needed to force everybody into there to be able to pay for everybody that had pre-existing conditions. So again, Obamacare is the reason why why a lot of this stuff happened. And actually, Senator Mike Lee nails it. Says dealing with health insurers has become increasingly frustrating. The frustration would be far less severe if the U.S. government hadn't severely limited consumer choice in healthcare through Obamacare and other programs. The government makes healthcare less affordable, not more. Yes. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, we'll see what happens in the next administration, how, we'll change this. But I mean, Trump said he's going to keep Obamacare unless he can find a suitable alternative. And let's hope he can find a suitable, if anything, keep Obamacare, but change the restrictions and allow people to get health savings accounts. Like, that would be the number one thing that we should be doing. Like, give us health savings accounts. I would love as a self-employed person to just buy into a health savings account. Because right now I'm banking on the VA. Everything else I pay out of pocket. If I'm banking on the VA for emergencies, but everything else is out of pocket. Like, that's it. But yeah, I want to play this clip for you because this shares exactly the notion that we're talking about.
The precise moment I no longer was a Democrat.
Raise your hand if your government plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants.
Okay. That was the precise moment that I knew I was leaving the Democratic Party, because I was a 2-time bone cancer survivor. I voted for Obama-Biden based on Obamacare. And when it was implemented in 2010, I ended up losing my insurance. I went from an insurance plan that was $185 a month with a $1,000 deductible to that policy being canceled because it no longer met the requirements.
If you wanted to keep your policy, you can.
And I was left
right.
Cheapest option being $1,200 a month, $6,000 deductible. $185 a month, $1,000 deductible to $1,200 a month, $6,000 deductible. I went 10 years without insurance, and I was penalized each year because I could no longer afford insurance. And in 2016, every single Democrat candidate up on that debate stage raised their hand and said they would give illegals free health care. While me, as a 2-time bone cancer survivor, lost mine. Didn't have insurance for 10 years, and I was supposed to get CT scans, chest x-rays, and all these other tests done every 6 months to ensure my cancer didn't come back. And they wanted to give illegals free health care. That was the exact moment I was no longer a Democrat.
Yeah, that's what happened under Obamacare. Remember the whole, if you like your plan, you can keep your plan? Well, this guy just told you that was a complete lie. That was a complete lie. And it made health insurance more expensive. Prime example. And that's not, he's obviously not the only person. This is a wide range issue. It's not easy to get good health insurance now. And he was the same way. Yeah. So yeah. But y'all, my voice held up. My voice held up, y'all. And this was a good show. I didn't get to talk about this whole Lily Phillips situation. Go read Libby's piece on this though too. This is actually really good. If you don't know the Lily Phillips situation, she does OnlyFans and slept with 100 men on camera, did a documentary. The documentary, I guess, is out on YouTube. I haven't watched the documentary. But this whole situation, it's sad because, Feminists Online. So Libby wrote this in Human Events. So definitely go read this. She actually gives a really good take on what happened here, and how even her instinct is to worry about like satisfying like the approval and making sure the men had a good time as this. It's really sad. And then you have people like Julie, who writes in The Spectator that the men should be locked up and basically giving her a free pass. Now, look, I think that having the freedom to do something, which I believe that Lily and everybody involved in this has the freedom to do what they did, doesn't mean that they should do it or that I condone it or I would say I would recommend it. No, I think that the entire situation is sad. It's obviously a cry for help from her. I think, like Kat, you said, it's true. I think this is a form of self-harm that she has. And when you look at like her mother apparently as her finance manager, they're setting it up to do 1,000 now. And even in this, she was crying in the documentary, and it was really interesting. I think, like I said, go read Libby's take on this too. But there's this whole thing that it seems like a lot of the feminists online are removing Lily's agency, basically having almost the sexism of low expectation take to where she was being exploited. So it's this whole idea that women don't have agency over their own body now, and it's even though she fully consented to do this, it's all the men's fault. I think everybody involved. It's everybody involved's fault. That's the point. Is everybody's fault, including hers, and she bears responsibility as well for setting this up. And it was her. She consented. And if you don't, if it's really like an old archaic idea that women don't have agency. So like if a woman does this, it's automatically the men's fault. Like that is actually more so like this idea. And I will say, again, going back to this though, if you haven't seen, my friend Christina Buttons is back on the internet. Go check out the article she wrote about her situation and the bad decisions that she made, that were circulated online. I'm so glad that she's back. I'm so proud of her for this piece. But in the piece that she wrote is a beautiful and vulnerable piece. I do believe she's an amazing person that's made mistakes, and I'm just really proud of her. And so go check out that piece. But she actually talked about this this Lily situation too, and she talks about this this article where Louise Perry argues that very few people, like it was titled "The Myth of female agency," basically saying that women don't can't consent to their own actions. That's basically what it comes down to. And so that they have to be restricted. Now, when I've seen people saying that she's obviously not acting out of her own right mind, and so she should be basically locked up in a mental institution and have all of her stuff restricted for making these choices for herself. And it's saying that, you know, females don't have agency, and it's up to men to restrict them. And again, I think it's a sexism of low expectation. We see this in a lot of different movements, right? We see this in the trans movement as well. We see it where the feminists believe this because they always see so trans women to them are always predators, and trans men are always seen as victims. It's this idea. I had somebody say recently that like called me a failed man. But if you believe that failing as a man is wanting to be a woman, then you believe that women are less than men, and that you can actually fail into a failed man is equal to a woman. I don't believe that. And it seems like a very misogynistic sexism of low expectation type take. If you believe that trans women are failed men. And I was actually a highly successful man, so it didn't make sense. But now I responded, and this is true. It's the view is that all authoritarians have, because people do things they disagree with, they feel like they are obligated to prevent people from doing them because they know better, quote. Denying female agency is pretty misogynistic take. It puts males as decision makers because women are not capable of doing so. This is what the Taliban believes. But also, remember, a form of feminism is considered critical theory. So it follows the same locus of control that CRT and queer theory follow, that women are a part of an oppressed group, and there is nothing that they can do to escape that, and men will always be oppressors. That is like the foundation of critical race theory. If you are a part of if you are a part of a racial minority, you are, according to critical race theory, part of an oppressed class, and there is nothing that you can ever do that will allow you to escape that oppressed status. And if you are a white person, then you are an oppressor, and there's nothing you can ever do that will make you so that you're not an oppressor. You can never do enough. You always will have privilege, right? So I always talk about with queer theory. Queer theory is an area where people can opt into an oppressed status, because being oppressed in this society is actually celebrated, right? So queer theory is an area where if you are gay or trans or any of that, they would say that you were in an oppressed status and there's nothing that you could ever do to escape. Now, the difference with queer theory is that you can actually opt into it and opt out of it, according to them. I can't opt out of my gender dysphoria. I didn't opt into it either. But because it's based on postmodernism, all of it's based on postmodernism, you can simply opt in. And sex, so if this is the crossover between queer theory was derived out of feminist ideology and gender studies courses in the early 90s, and even a little bit before that as well. And so that's why they're so tightly linked. But they would say that gender is a social construct, right? But then they would say that then they acknowledge that gender is not a social construct when they say that females don't have agency. Again, but then we look at it as well and say, but we see this in the radical feminist ideology. I would say it's the third wave feminists that don't want to go into the fourth wave feminism that attack all trans, because fourth wave feminism has trans people, right? So they would say, again, trans men are victims while trans women are all predators. That's the way that they view both the situation as a whole. And so, again, they would say that they are taking upon that locus of control, that bodily agency, with their feminism. And that's what we're seeing in these types of situations. They always see women who do porn as victims, whereas they always see men who do the porn or shoot the porn or anything like that as as predators, which I mean, there's probably a lot of that in the situation, but not always. I know quite a few people that have done porn in the past and haven't, they are well adjusted and they don't condemn anybody else that's in the industry who has left. And it seems like with the ones that I know that have had a positive experience, I guess, I don't know if they would say it was positive experience, but they would say that it was because they were able to, they set their terms, they knew their limits, and they did not cross their own boundaries, and they didn't let anybody else force them to cross their own boundaries. And so if you're not a strong-willed person, or you are in a desperate situation, you could get coerced into doing something that was past your boundaries. And so but that's the difference, right? I think that's we need, I think that everybody should have agency over their own bodies and be able to make the choices that are right for them. And most people don't believe that. You see this on the left, you see it on the right. My body, my choice is circumstantial for most people. So enough with the rant. Again, we've been going for almost an hour and a half now, and my voice is starting to go, and I don't usually even go this long. So again, thank you all for joining. If you've made it this far, click that like and subscribe button below. Follow me across all social media platforms. Like I said, I got subscriptions now available on X. I don't have any exclusive content on there yet. I'm still trying to think of some ideas. So if you have some ideas as to what type of exclusive content I can bring or you'd like to see from me, make sure you put those in the comments and we will see what we can do. And if you just want to support me, that's great too. So, but follow me across all social media platforms, and I will see you next time.